Welcome to this recipe video. Today we're going to be making a delicious fish taco with a cabbage slaw. So first up, you're going to want to preheat the oven to 375 Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. And then you're going to place your fish in a baking dish. So I personally used wild caught cod because that is what I had in the freezer. And what I love about this recipe is that you can really use what you have on hand, but you could use halibut, tilapia, or sea bass, whatever you like. So to prepare the fish, you're going to want to drizzle about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil over the fish, then the juice of 1 lime, and then half a teaspoon each of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, cracked black pepper, and salt. And then you're going to just gently kind of rub that in and ensure that it's evenly coated on both sides. Now, if you have other seasonings that you enjoy, like cumin, you could add that too. You could even mince some fresh garlic as well. And then once that is all evenly coated over both sides of the fish, you're going to want to pop that in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the thickness of your fish. So now that the fish is in the oven, you're going to want to prepare your cabbage slaw. So finely slice your red cabbage. For this recipe, I'm using about half of the cabbage, but you could absolutely use the whole head of cabbage and double the recipe with the other ingredients depending on the size of the batch that you're wanting to make. This is really nice to then have leftovers for things like barbecue pulled pork sandwiches. You could even mix it into different salad mixes as well, just to have a little bit more crunch and texture as well. Then you are going to want to finely chop about 1 carrot. I personally do my carrot in ribbons so they're nice and thin and it's not super chunky. And then I just finely dice it so that it's in really small strips to add, and it just creates an overall better balance of each of the ingredients in the slaw. And then you are going to want to prepare your jalapeno. Now, depending on how spicy you like things, you can either keep or remove the core and the seeds. You could also roast poblano peppers and add those in as well for a little bit more of that kind of grilled and charred flavor, which is really delicious. And I think that's a part of the beauty of recipes like this, that you have a framework and you can adapt it based on what ingredients you have, the preferences of yourself, of your family, whatever. And that's kind of what I want to encourage you to do, of being inspired, having ideas of different recipes to create, but then giving yourself the permission and the freedom to mix things up and not be bound by a set of instructions, because then I think that just makes preparing other dinners so much easier, that you have more inspiration that you can go off of and you can adapt accordingly to what you like and what you have. So once all of those ingredients are chopped and prepared, you're going to want to mix them together in a bowl and just make sure everything is just well distributed. You're also going to want to chop your cilantro nice and finely as well. I really like it nice and herby with this, but again, you can adapt based on how much you like. And I also like to have some saved to top the tacos at the end when you're loading them up with all of the goodies. So with the next ingredients, adding in the seasonings and the spices, I taste as I go to decide if I need to add more acidity, more salt, or other spices to just really enhance and balance out the flavor. So you can use the juice of 1 to 2 limes. I also had a random half lemon left over, and I really love this citrusy zinginess with the fish, so I added that in as well. Just going to want to mix that as you go to make sure everything is nicely coated and just distributed throughout the whole slaw. Then you're also going to add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I don't always measure this out, I just kind of put a splash in. A drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, and you could also use avocado oil. I wouldn't use something like a coconut oil because that will solidify once it touches the cold elements of the slaw, and so you just don't want random chunks of coconut oil. So I definitely would use one that is liquid at room temperature. Then you are going to add a drizzle of agave nectar. You could also use maple syrup or honey, whatever you have on hand, and that just adds a really nice subtle sweetness, which really pairs nicely with just a little bit of the kick and the heat that comes from the jalapeno, especially because I left in the core and the seed. So this slaw definitely had a little bit more of a kick, but I really like that against the delicateness of the fish anyway. And then you're going to add your spices. So again, whatever you have, whatever you enjoy: onion powder, garlic powder, salt, cracked black pepper, and I just do a little pinch of each of those. But again, I would encourage you to just taste it as you go and see what needs adding, what does there need to be more of. And another addition that I think would be really delicious if you had it to hand, or if this was maybe a recipe that you were making in the spring and the summer, is to finely dice mango or pineapple, and that adds a really nice fruity sweetness that pairs perfectly with the acidity and the heat and the salt that is already in the slaw. So then you're just going to want to mix that all together and make sure everything is nice and evenly coated. So as your fish is cooking at around the 20-minute mark, I would definitely check to see if it pulls apart and if it flakes when a knife or a fork is inserted into the thickest part of the fish. And then what I do is I pull apart the fish for the final 3 to 5 minutes to make sure that it's thoroughly cooked through, and then I put it on broil to add a slight crisp and char to the edges of the fish. But I will say this happens really quickly, so definitely stay close by and keep an eye on it to make sure that you don't burn your fish. Once your fish is perfectly cooked and out of the oven, I then warm the tortillas on broil as well for just under a minute to get them warm, get them a little bit crispy and bubbly as well. And then you can include whatever toppings that you enjoy or have to hand. So I love guacamole. Sometimes if I just have like avocados, I'll mash that with just some lime, salt, cilantro. Really simple, but you could add other things too, and then an extra squeeze of lime and a sprinkle of cilantro too.